Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with the very talented jazz vocalist Dessy Di Lauro and jazz journeyman pianist, husband, collaborator, and all-around music man Rickey Pageot. These days, the husband-wife duo are collaborating on some quality music, incorporating elements from the speakeasy era with an added contemporary urban edge. The pair stay very busy. She is set to release her new EP in the summer of 2015, followed by a North American, UK, and European tour. And Rickey is busy as the pianist on Madonna's Rebel Heart tour. During the course of our interview, the couple discussed a wide range of topics, touching on their past in Montreal, their projects today, and their dreams for an independent future of creating their own music at their own pace in their own time. Please dig this entire interview, my friends.
Thank you for taking some time to talk to me on jazz. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Right on. Let me go ahead and dive in here and ask you, first of all, what has been going on lately?
Wow, what's been going on? We have a lot going on right now.
That's a good problem.
Yeah, we're actually finishing off the EP. We're about to release an EP for September release, and we also have a music video that it should be out anytime soon for the first single called "Let Me Hear You Say Hep Hep." So a lot of stuff, photo shoots and all that good stuff in between. So we're prepping for new releases right now.
I don't want to hedge on anything top secret, but talk to me a little bit about this EP coming up. It's kind of a timely thing. We're in the middle of August, so give me a little bit of a insight into the album and what went into it and kind of the creative forces that they...
Okay. Rick, you want to take this one?
Well, on the musical side, one of the great things about this album is that we were able to get sample clearance for Cab Calloway's classic "Needs a Moocher."
Cool.
And we have a song basically using those samples from Heidi Ho and all of that stuff, which is great because I haven't seen a lot of artists in the past who would get sample clearance for that. So that's a big deal for us. Also, we have Dessy's rapping for the first time. She's rapping actually on 3 other cuts, which is pretty cool. Like she's developing her own rapper side, which is really cool. And the album is a lot. We're taking a lot more chances on the album in terms of musical direction. The first one, This Is Neo Ragtime, released 2 years ago. We had a common thread, but this time around we're really playing around with different genres of the 1920s, 1930s jazz. We have a song called His Name Is Jack, which is a march. We're using a kind of like a jazz march, kind of like a New Orleans type of vibe, procession type of vibe. So it's an EP. There's not a lot of songs, not as much as a full album, but every song is really different. So it really shows our growth musically, but maintaining the neo ragtime sound is just developed.
The interesting thing that I find about artists like Dessy is that Miles Davis was kind of going for this level of progression in jazz, this newer sound that you're talking about, the rapping. Even Yoko has said if John Lennon would still be around, he would have pushed an electronic vibe and really gone crazy with this whole electronic thing going on. What has been kind of the philosophy jazz-wise for you pushing an envelope? Is that premeditated? What has been kind of the whole, goal, so to speak, of the sound that you want to produce for the public?
Well, I grew up with lots of really old stuff in my house. Like that, the jazz influence was really, really strong. So I grew up on the Cab Callaways, the Duke Ellington, Fats Waller, mixed in with all this other, modern stuff, the soul, the gospels, and hip hop. So it just came to be like that. Rickey as well. We've been writing partners for a long time, so it just happened. It really came about one day. He was playing something classical, and I'm like, try that in ragtime. So it's something that has been part of me for a long time. My mom had been telling me for years, and I never listened. So I was like, it's always been part of me, but there's always this thing about how am I going to make this cool and, fit me? Because, I got the hip-hop influence. I got the soul hip-hop influence, and how am I going to incorporate the jazz thing? It kind of just flowed naturally. So, and it's something I've always done, like, the whole scatting thing. It's something that I've always done, and now I could do it more because of the type of music we're doing. So I think it's a healthy balance of that, the old, but making it new.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it just kind of came about like that. It wasn't something that we really put our minds to and said, okay, we're going to create this sound today and make it sound like this. It just happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But when we created this, when we came up with this sound, we didn't want, the first thing that Dessy and I told each other is that we didn't want to try to recreate what's already been done 100 years ago. We wanted to basically say, okay, what if this, early jazz, what if jazz was invented today? What if Cab Calloway and Duke Ellington were alive today? How would it sound? So we really wanted to evolve how they left off, that whole 1920s and 30s Harlem Renaissance sound. So we wanted to take that and make it today, make it modern, progressive. For you know what I'm saying? So
yeah,
it's fun because we both have jazz backgrounds, so we get to use our jazz chops, quote unquote, and at the same time, it's fun. It's a little it's a little more on the urban, and I'm able to use urban sounds, the backbeat, like Dessy said. We grew up on urban hip hop and R&B and all that stuff, so it's fun for us to be able to mesh both styles.
Well, it almost seems like a really good way of pulling in an audience that typically wouldn't get the jazz anyways. I mean, anymore, jazz tends to be a niche, so to speak. So if you can get other genres and kind of pull in the other crowds, not only are they going to dig what you're doing, but they're going to have some level of appreciation for jazz. And we all know that when you part that jazz curtain, you're not going to go back.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And that was the lightness that we wanted to add. That's exactly where, we were going with it. It's like, okay, let's open up people's minds. And a lot of people that wouldn't normally listen to jazz that come out to our shows are like, wow, this is not something I would normally buy or listen to, but I really did this.
Yeah.
Opening up my mind to
So I know you're in L.A. now, but did you grow up in L.A.?
No, we're both originally actually from Montreal.
Oh, great.
So, originally born and raised in Montreal. I lived in Florida for a long while, and now we've been living in LA for 7 years and just honing our craft out here.
So what was it like growing up in Montreal to kind of give you that appreciation for, maybe live music or jazz and music in general?
Well, already my background is a mix, a huge mix. So I growing up in Montreal, it's like everywhere you look. Montreal's a lot like New York City, where it's multicultural, different backgrounds, and people listen to all kinds of, it's very open, and people listen to all kinds of music. And what's interesting about Montreal is that people are fusing all kinds of their influences and, different music. And so I had this whole plethora of music growing up that, being Latina, being part black, being, part white, having this big mix of all this stuff was really interesting. So I think that's the greatness of Montreal. Like, it's just a big fusion of everything. So people's ears are a lot more open to a fusion of all kinds of different styles. There's so much of everything in Montreal, so that's the melting pot, the interesting melting pot.
Very cool. So growing up, did you always have a desire to get into entertainment, or what did you want to be when you were a kid?
It's always been part of me. I started singing at a very young age. I probably, couldn't shut up. At 3 years old, I was always, singing. So, my mom put me in the choir, and at the time it was, it was a pain because you don't want to be forced to do anything you don't want to do. But I really, growing up, I really appreciate the church influence and the influence of the choir and the whole gospel influence. So, it's something that was always part of me. My family is a family that loves music. They listen to music all the time. I had so many different influences, surrounded by so much wealth of music in my house. So it was, it's always been part of me. Make a career out of it. I in my early teens, that's when it just kind of happened.
Yeah.
So, it pretty much my whole life, I knew I was bound for this path.
I'm going to delve into certain aspects of your career, Cirque du Soleil, and I'm going to kind of go through some things. But if somebody comes across your name, you're releasing your new album, they come across your name, if you could tailor-make maybe a paragraph or some kind of synopsis as to how your career got to where it's at today, some of the highlights and how your path wove its way to this newest album right now, what would you say?
Well, it's obviously the growth. I'd say that my time at Cirque du Soleil made me a better performer, made me a lot stronger artist performer. Stage presence grew dramatically from that experience. As far as vocally as well, I was performing 6 days a week, 2 shows a day. So the strength in vocals, and with Cirque du Soleil, I got hired to improv. So every day was just something different. So I got to stretch and do what I wanted to do vocally. And then when I met Ric'key, his influences and our influences together, that was a whole other aspect. Him being of Haitian background brought a different type of sound, and our creativity together. That gave me patience, because when you're working together, it's like you're not always going to agree, but there's a nice complicity. So, kind of a balance on how to work together. So, what else? That's a great question.
I would add also, it goes back to your Montreal question, but I know Dessy would agree to this. The growth also of living in Montreal is that it's part of our musical growth, the multiculturalism. You're playing different gigs every single weekend. One weekend you're playing jazz, next weekend you're playing salsa, the other weekend you're playing reggae, the other weekend you're playing R&B. So all of that was a great part of our musical growth. And that was good because that's what I find living in LA, is that there are certain cultural cliques in a way, cultural cliques or genre cliques in LA. Even though it's multicultural, it's not as meshed in Montreal. Montreal is like I said, my best friend is Palestinian and another best friend is Arabic. So it's just having that accessibility to different styles of music, listening to different musicians, and just interacting with different musicians. Hence, you do different styles of music almost every weekend, almost every gig.
And speaking of musicians, Rickey, you perform with Madonna, which it doesn't get any higher than that. What has that experience been like, and what has that brought to your collaboration with Dessy?
Well, the best part for me of working with Madonna is the creation process, how she puts a tour together, and looking at the people that she surrounds herself with creatively. The energy that's expected, the professionalism obviously, but the energy that's expected from being on such a big stage and trying to touch, 100,000 people in one night. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you tend to I don't want to say exaggerate, but you tend to give a lot more, or have to give a lot more, because you want to reach the person that's all the way in the back, not just the people in the front row. So that obviously rubbed off on me, and I've seen a difference with when I perform, with Dessy. It's just, the energy is just, it's a lot more contagious. You know what I'm saying? I'm usually a shy person, but when we get on stage, we have so much fun. We just leave it all on stage. So, and also, the whole, Madonna is like the queen of branding, the queen of making like different people from different backgrounds all come together and make something really cool and different. So, it's a school. I always look at every tour at a school, like a different grade school, because it's another opportunity to grow as a musician, as a producer, as a performer, as a creator. So we have so many ideas that we want to get to that, I just don't feel like there's enough hours in the day or enough money in our pockets to create everything that we really want to create, because there's so much that, it's not just a singer performing, her original songs. It's much bigger than that. It's an experience when you come to our show. And that is, I could really say that it's because of all those different influences. Like I said, Montreal, Madonna, Cirque du Soleil, and just people around us, just regular musicians that are just phenomenal.
Well, it almost sounds like you would get the experience of a president, which is years packed into 1 year, being around that level of professionalism and
exactly,
choreography and all.
And you don't quit until it's done. You don't finish the job until it's done. Like I literally got back to my hotel at 2 a.m. last night because something wasn't right, and she kept redoing it. And you could only have respect for someone like that. There's a lot of pop singers out there that just, they just want to leave the rehearsal and say, you fix it. No, she's there fixing it.
Right.
She's not going to pass the buck. The buck stops with her. So you can only, learn from that and respect that and try to do it when it comes to your own project. Try to do the same thing.
Well, and that's why someone like that is around as long as they are. It's that constant kneeling down to as good as you can get. So there'd be something to be said about longevity and working hard. It all kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
So I got a question, Dessy, about your sophomore full-length album, This Is Neo Ragtime. One of the tracks, Jump and Jive, was on ESPN. A lot of people has probably heard you during the NCAA Final Four. What was that like to get picked for that? How big of a moment? What kind of growth and audience do you think that reached?
Wow. That was, it was a big surprise, in a good way. We were pushing the song, and that's the one thing right now that's, we're trying to push to get on placements and stuff and movies. And so when we got the call for that was a big deal. We don't know. We didn't get a lot of feedback from that just because, it's so spread out and it's such a national, it was on a national level. So, but I mean, the people from back home, we got, lots of props for that. That was a big deal for us. And yeah, getting on ESPN, especially for the Final Four, that was a big deal.
So there's something to be said about standing on the shoulders of giants and getting to where you want to get in your life. Tell me who have been the best teachers in your life, teaching you about not only music but being alive.
Ooh, I'd say my mom. She's just instilled all this amazing music. So I'm grateful for that. I'm forever grateful because she helped shape, who I am as a performer, as a singer. I'd have to say my best friend as well. She's this phenomenal singer, Coco Thompson from Montreal. So having her as a role model and to watch and listen to. And she said something to me very early on when I first came out, and she's like, you need to find yourself. And, because when I came out, I sounded like this one and that one and that one. It's like you need to find your own personality through your voice, find your own tone and your own thing that'll make you uniquely you as a performer and artist. So that always stuck in my head. And I'd have to say, I can't make it about one thing, or, Ric'key was a huge influence on me and a huge support. He constantly, even till now, will keep pushing me and keep pushing my boundaries, because I used to be shy. But since we started working together, it's just he's constantly pushing me to be better and, do more, not be afraid to take chances and just be completely uninhibited when I perform, when I sing, leave it all on stage, basically. So, yeah. And, all those experiences, I look at everybody that comes into my life, whether it be good or bad, helped shape who I am today as a performer, as an artist, as a singer. It all comes with it, so. And as far as life, every single interaction with people is teaches me something every day. It's all part of growth. Yeah.
Well, speaking of, at a very young age, speaking of influences at a young age, at the age of 4, it was noted that you were borrowing your parents' records, Sarah Vaughan, Duke Ellington, Stevie Wonder, Luther Vandross. Tell me, who would you consider your music heroes?
So many. But Cab, Duke, Stevie, Donny Hathaway, Luther, Whitney, Sarah Vaughan, Ella, Lauryn Hill, Bilal, D'Angelo, Erykah Badu, Tribe Called Quest, Common, Outkast. So all those in one, I know that's a lot, and the list goes on, but those are the main ones that just pop off the top of my head that I'm like, yeah. And then, gospel music, anything gospel for me is just, that's life. That's breath.
Next question, we'll totally get this list down to a singular. And if you could get into a time machine and go back in time and witness one of these artists live at any point, who would you want to see and where would you want to go?
Wow. I'd have to say Whitney. Just because vocally she's the biggest influence. That just the type of singer that if she would have sung me to sleep or a lullaby, I couldn't think of anybody I'd rather hear sing me to sleep than Whitney. Her there's just she was so powerful and moving vocally that, anybody could. I get goosebumps just, thinking of certain live performances that I've seen online or I've seen on TV that are just like, if I could be a fly on the wall at one of those shows, or, just hearing her hum or something in her house, or that would be everything.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. What's the greatest thing about waking up every day?
The greatest thing about waking up is waking up. is having life and breath to wake up and to, have another day of life. That's the way I look at it. Every day I wake up, I say, thank you. Thank you for this day. Thank you for another day of my life.
Cool. Why do you love jazz?
Why do I love jazz? There's so much to love about jazz. different interpretation from different people, soloing of, piano solos, horn solos, the uninhibitedness of it, the freeness of jazz. There's so much to love about jazz. It's just, musically, it's the freest of all music. There's, you don't conform with jazz. So there's no conformity to jazz. I'm curious to hear what Rickey's thought.
I just love to swing.
Yeah, swing. Of course.
There's no better than hearing a good band that just swings.
Mm-hmm.
Or writing something that just swings. I just love to swing. That's what I love about jazz. I mean, yes, obviously, soloing and hearing people express themselves with their instruments, but just, man, there's no better feeling than just like a kicking band in a club that just swings.
Let me ask you this. What was the first, this is for both of you, the first time you were ever approached for an autograph? What went through your head?
I know for me it was weird. It was just bizarre. I'm like, why? It's flattering. I think it was the shock of, wow, they're actually asking me for my autograph. This is just so surreal and bizarre. So I think it was just the shock of it being weird. It's just, even when people ask now, it just kind of takes me aback. And I'm like, I try to be as humble and, practice humility in what we do in this crazy business of ours as much as possible. But I'm appreciative. I realize people that, I'm doing something to people through my music, and I'm making them feel a certain way, and that's everything to me. So, yeah.
Cool. First time I was asked for an autograph, I was actually a teenager after a piano recital or something. But it was like, from an extended family member or something, when I would play at house parties, with my parents and their friends and stuff like that. And I think it was a moment like that. It was just, wow, this is cool. Why would you want my autograph? But it was just like, it was just a cool moment.
So to wrap everything up here today, I'm going to ask you this. We all get on a phone, we have a conversation in 10 years. The very first thing I'm going to ask you, in that classic verbal MC Escher style of reflecting back on this interview, what has been going on lately? What are you going to want to tell me has happened?
Oh, wow. That I won a few Grammy Awards.
Nice.
And that Neo Ragtime is, people will know what we do musically worldwide, and that I could actually sit down and have a coffee with you and say, we've toured the world, and, people love our music and love what we do, and they appreciate this new sound called Neo Ragtime.
For me, my goal, I don't want to say ultimate goal, but my goal, I'll feel like we've made it in a way, so to speak, is when we're able to live off of our own music.
Right.
Cool.
When we don't have to take somebody else's tour because we need to pay bills or we need to pay rent or anything like that. When the day that that I see that, oh wow, we're able to live off of our own music, whether it's touring, whether it's the music placement somewhere or anything like that, that's when, I'll be able to say, that's, in 2025, I'll be like, yep, that's what we accomplished. Because once we accomplish that, to me, that's everything. Because this is what I love doing. This is the ultimate for me. This is the ultimate, is when I'm on stage with Dessy and we're playing our original music in front of strangers, and by the second song, they're already dancing. We're making people feel good. We're making people forget about their problems for anything, they may be going through in their lives, and just feel like they're transported, whether it's in the past or whether it's in the future. It depends how you see our music. Some people say this is the future. Some people say, wow, you're taking me back. So just for that moment, just to be able to do that and make money off of it, where we don't have to be Destiny, because we love being together. We're best friends. We're husband and wife, but we're best friends also. So whenever we're in a situation where we can be together and creating together, yes.
And the creating is everything. So there's no greater love or happiness than what we do on that stage. There's none. It's just everything. So yeah, creating our own economy, doing what we love, that would be everything. It really would.
That's a great way to wrap up, saying, hey, it was a pleasure to speak with you too. Good luck with everything.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York City, Kansas City, Montreal, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Dessy and Ric'key for their time, talent, and dedication to making jazz always tasty. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store, or visit theneonjazz.blogspot.com for all things Neon Jazz. Okay, until next time, enjoy the music, my friends.
Neon Jazz.